I'm really excited to share with you that feeling stuck does not mean that you have failed. Okay? It doesn't mean that you suck. It doesn't mean that you're incapable. It doesn't mean you're unworthy or undeserving. It just means one thing. You're not where you expected to be. Welcome to Clients Over Chaos and the Coaches Plaza weekly training. If you are here with me and you can see me, let me know. Good morning, good morning. All right, y'all, I'm so excited about this. Let me move my microphone to a place where you can actually hear me. Hello, I'm so glad that you're here. I'm here. We're here. We made it. It's Monday. And I'm just so happy that you could join today. So if you can see me and hear me okay in the chat, just say good morning. And if you're a new friend, shout out new. If you are an old friend, say hello, hello. I'm super excited to chat with you today because we're going to talk about what happens when your business starts to stall, right? So, I've been coaching people for a decade, and I've also been a consultant for much longer. So I'm working on 19 years in this help people be successful career path that I have built over the years. And if there's one thing that I've learned, it's that we all encounter struggle. We all get stuck. And I'm just going to move my Instagram off of the Wi-Fi. There we go. Hello, hello. Perfect. So I'm really excited to share with you that feeling stuck does not mean that you have failed. Okay? It doesn't mean that you suck. It doesn't mean that you're incapable. It doesn't mean you're unworthy or undeserving. It just means one thing. You're not where you expected to be. That's it. It has everything to do with your expectations and has very little to do with your value as a human being, your capability, your potential. And so today we're going to talk about recognizing, one, that things are a little jammed up, right? So how do you recognize it? And it's just like anything, like the sooner you recognize what's going on, the sooner you can put mitigations in place, you can recover, you can improve. But if we don't even know that we're getting into a jam up, then you wake up one morning and you're like, wow, I feel so stuck. I can't breathe. This is terrible. And it's just not great. So we're going to help you restart your momentum without starting everything all over again. So, when you are building a business, it can be so tempting to just restart and redo and begin again. And this is actually a habit that a lot of entrepreneurs get into when they're stuck on how to get leads, or they're stuck on how to get the yes in the sale, or they're stuck on the offer. Instead of just fixing the part of their business that is the most broken, they tend to just throw the baby out with the bathwater and start completely new all over again. And they don't make the progress that they wanted to make because they keep losing momentum. So today I really want you to walk away with, how do you restart your momentum without scrapping everything that you've built, gently letting go of the things that don't serve you anymore, but ultimately becoming more successful because you are locked in and you're ready to go. And by the way, if you love this, if you love these trainings, make sure you join us in the Clients Over Chaos community at nextnumber5clients.com, where you will find the entire replay and ready to go. Hello, good morning, Debbie. I'm glad you're here. Okay, so what is a business plateau, right? What is a business plateau? Most businesses plateau for one really key reason. Okay. And it's not because you don't have the latest marketing software. It's not because you don't know AI. It's not because you are unworthy in some way. And I keep talking about worthiness because I know what that's like. I know what it's like to be scared to turn a camera on. I know what it's like to share your opinion and be like, whew, what if somebody disagrees with me? What if somebody thinks that I'm stupid or if I'm uninformed? And like, I get that. I understand that because I've had that exact same fear and that exact same concern. And it sabotaged me for years. So I ended up in a sabotage at zero, right? Does anybody have a friend that you know that has experienced the sabotage at zero? Right? And the thing is it doesn't have to be like that. Most business plateaus happen because what you're used to in your prior version doesn't serve you in the next version. Okay? So that's a sign of growth when you end up in a plateau, when you start encountering a ceiling on your growth. That is actually a sign that you are growing, right? Because you wouldn't be considering it a ceiling or a constraint if you didn't have an expectation that you should be able to go beyond that, right? So it's a really important growth point. So what we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about 3 signs that you need to be on the lookout for that you might be getting stuck into grind mode and not into growth mode, right? They're 2 different things, grind versus growth. And we're going to talk about how to use a system and to know whether your system needs fixing or replacing. So think of your business like a car. Your car needs maintenance. Your car needs repair. There may be upgrades to the system on the car. And you can make the life of a car last for a very long time when you take care of the car. But what a lot of people do is they encounter the friction or the obstacle of, their business, the car, not running properly and like, oh, time to get a new car. And so I want to talk to you a little bit about how do you know whether to really replace it or whether you're in a place where you need to focus on the fix. I'm going to share with you my flow reset framework. So this is super, super important because have you ever had that feeling like nothing that you do is going to really get you the goal? So then you end up feeling really lethargic and tired because you're like, well, it doesn't really matter anyway. And like, just shout a Y in the chat if you have a friend who's ever expressed that to you, right? I know that feeling very well. And that's why I have Do What Matters tattooed on my arm, because it's a reminder, a constant reminder of like, your growth does not come from you thinking your way through it. It does not come from you thinking about it. It doesn't come from you contemplating it. It doesn't come from you journaling about it or getting star charts written about it. Your growth is going to come largely from your incompetent and impressive, massive action, right? Because there's just nothing like the tutor of actually doing things to tell you what is real in the world and what you can actually dismiss. And that's actually one of the biggest things about flow is letting yourself ignore the things that you don't have to pay attention to because you're focused, you're activated, you're in flow, right? Yeah. So a friend. And we're just going to talk very briefly at the end about what are some moves that we tend to force on ourselves that we don't need to. Okay. One of those big things is you don't need to post every single day if you're not posting at all. Okay, you don't need to post to social media every single day if you're not posting at all. Start with once a week, then 3 times a week. Now, if you're like me, you start doing the thing and you start getting impatient because you're like, oh, how long is this going to take? Well, let me give you some news, my friend. The world's most prolific social media people who make the most money from their social media presence and brand, they're posting like 35,000 times a month. I think that's a month. 1,000 kinds of posts a month. So you might be thinking like, well, if I post 3 times a week, then I'm not going to be the world's best. Sure, you're not going to be the world's best. But do you need to be the world's best? Or do you need to be the one that got started? See, 99% of people look at the world's best and they go like, oh, I can never be that. I could never be the world's best at that thing. They tell themselves that. And then they use it as a justification to just not start, not do anything. And then they look back on their years, they look back on the months even, and even the weeks, and they go, I could have been so much more productive. I could have done more. You see, the thing that really tortures you is not whether or not you were the best in the world. That's not the thing that's really ultimately going to torture you. What's going to torture you is when you look back on your time and you realize there was potential that you gave away to things you don't care about. There was potential in you that wasn't activated. So if the potential was 3 posts worth of effort and you've been doing 0 posts, I mean, did you set an intention? Did you honor the intention? Did you follow through on the intention? Because you're going to feel really good about that. And everybody thinks that it's about the status. It's about, where am I in the herd? Am I like the top of whatever? And it's like, some people are going to just be extremely driven in that area. And you're never going to touch them because they are so ridiculously focused on that one thing. And maybe your life design is a little different. Maybe your life design has you focused on a few different things. And maybe that's okay. Maybe that's great. You know, for me personally, I wanted kids. I wanted kids and a family. I wanted to retire my husband. I had like all these different goals. And if I told myself that the only acceptable answer was to be the absolute best at everything in the world all the time, I would never get started, because the burden of effort, the burden of trying, the burden of learning the new skill, the burden of being seen to start small, all those burdens would stop me dead. I just wouldn't even continue. So let this, if this came across your feed today, or if you made time for this today, let this be your sign that you're great. You have so much access to so much existing potential. Instead of wanting to be something that you're not, or someone that you're not, or somewhere that you're not, then why don't you set intention for what you are and be that in full force? Because if you finish a week knowing that you were the best of who you are that week, because you set intention, you honored the intention, you followed through on the intention, that is how you experience flow. That's how you access the joy and the fulfillment of what you're doing. And you might just look up one day and realize you made $1 million. You know, you might just wake up one day and realize that you're working with some really impressive clients. You might wake up one day and realize your kids are pretty awesome, right? Because you were focused, you were present, you were in the day. So business plateaus tend to happen because we're trying to make it work using a method that worked for something else. I'm going to say that again. Most of the time when you're stuck in your business, it's because you're trying to force something to work that worked in a different context. So for most of the people that I work with, they have work experience as an employee. They're trying to take their experience as an employee and translate that into being an entrepreneur. And it is different, my friend. It is a different thing. So what makes you successful as an employee may not be the exact same prioritized things that make you successful as an entrepreneur. So that's like kind of phase 1, stage 1 is like, I've got to let go of this employee mindset. And, you know, one of the employee mindsets that holds a lot of people back is, if I just work a lot of hours, I'm going to be successful, right? Because maybe you're used to getting paid per hour, but that's not how entrepreneurs are compensated. Entrepreneurs are compensated on people saying yes to their ideas. So I've literally had a 2-hour window where I've made like $50,000 in 2 hours, right? Actually, I've done more. Now that I think about it, I've done over $100,000 in one single weekend. One weekend. And that used to take me, well, gosh, in my corporate career, I had to work up to getting to $100,000 a year. And I worked a lot of hours to earn the standing and the promotions to be able to get to that next stage gate. So it's normal to think you can just like outwork and out hustle your prior employee self to become a successful entrepreneur, but that ain't it. The behaviors that you were rewarded for in employment, are not the ones that are going to help you leap forward in entrepreneurship. Same thing if you have been successful as an entrepreneur. Let's say you've made sales. I'm so glad to see you, pretty. If you've made sales, but you've only made sales reliably to say $5,000 or $10,000 a month. I don't know your story. I'm recording this in my home studio, and I don't know who's going to see this on replay. But like whether you're making 10,000 a month consistently or 50,000 a month consistently or 100 or 500, the ceiling is a ceiling. The ceiling is a ceiling. And what got you to $10,000 months consistently is not going to be the thing that gets you to 50. It's not going to be the thing that gets you to 500. Right? So y'all can see that is like when we get stuck in habits, routines, belief systems that served us in getting to a prior goal, that's how we tend to stagnate. Another one that I see is when entrepreneurs switch industries. So for example, I've worked a lot lately with like therapists who are becoming life coaches, and therapists are kind of used to people just showing up and needing them, right? There's no need to market. There's no need to educate. There's no need to garner trust. It's just, they're just hired, right? Like it's very organic. People find you on Google and like the end. Same thing, like if you provided bookkeeping services or you were a lawyer, right? There's certain kinds of roles that you can play as a freelancer where the marketing requirements are super minimal. But here's the difference is in coaching, the general public doesn't really understand what coaching is. Like, I'll never forget this. I was taking a trip to a seminar once, and this guy in the airport lounge, he asked me, we were striking up a conversation. So he asked me, like, what do you do? And I say, I'm a coach, and I'm super proud of it. I'm a coach. And he goes, what, like baseball? And it was such a great, humbling moment. Shout to be in the chat if you're like, baseball, that's rich. But like that was what he had as a frame of reference for what coaching is. And what that experience really taught me, and many, many other supporting experiences where people were like, what do you really mean by that? What do you really mean by you're a coach, right? The fact that I have to explain it to so many people, including my closest family and friends, of what exactly it is that I do and how exactly I get paid for it. And yeah, there are people who pay for it and what, like, there's so much general confusion around coaching, right? So in this industry, it's so important that you own your presence. And you own your confidence in connecting with people, because when you do that, then they're more receptive to that conversation, which must be had. Don't make a mistake here, my friend. You must show up and not keep your coaching a secret. And the amount of explanation that you will have to do, that's just real, because the general public, they know what a lawyer is. They know what a bookkeeper is. For them, it's like, okay, I'm like totally aware. It's called solution aware. I'm aware that to get my books to a place that they're compliant, I need a bookkeeper. Like, they know that, but they're not necessarily solution aware of a coach. With coaching, we got to go upstream to being problem aware. And by the way, if you're like curious about just like ask your GPT or whatever you use for AI, what are the 5 levels of awareness, right? The 5 levels of awareness is a framework that was developed by one of the world's best copywriters. These guys made billions with a B of dollars writing long form sales letters to make money for different companies. So they just like totally dissected human psychology to like a systemized kind of a level. It's nuts how important it is, but there's these levels of awareness that a market has. And there's unaware, right? Meaning like, I don't know I have the pain and I don't know how to solve it. Like, I'm not even aware that this is a problem, right? That's unaware. Then there is problem aware. And this is where I encourage most coaches to put like their energy towards in the conversations. Talk about the problem you solve. I call it the problem of appropriate magnitude. Talk about the transformation you support, that you facilitate, because people don't realize that coaching is a solution. They're not choosing among different coaches. This is why I get heated sometimes when people tell me the coaching industry is saturated. And lately I've decided to choose laughter, right? Shout LOL in the chat if you're like, you resonate with like, when you get frustrated, sometimes the best thing to do is choose laughter. But it makes me laugh because so many coaches have no marketing experience or exposure. So for them, they are unaware that the problem that they have is they don't know how to communicate to people who are non-coaches about what they do. And so because they're unaware of this, they get really mad at people that are trying to help them with that. They get really mad at marketers. They get really mad at coaches who coach coaches because they are unaware that their problem is they don't know how to communicate what it is they do in a way that is compelling. So tell me that that's not a ceiling on growth, right? Like if you don't even know what the problem is, how are you supposed to solve it? And that's one of the biggest things that we can do as coaches is we can master that communication. We can talk about the problems that people can identify that they do know that they have, and then explore like, well, what have you done about it? What have you tried? And they're going to list all the different things that they did and all the different things that they tried. And you know what's not going to be on this list? This is why I get a little ranty about the saturation of coaching is they're not likely to list that they've worked with a coach on it, right? They've certainly never worked with 2 coaches on it or 3 coaches on it. They're not shopping between coaches. They're shopping between what are the options that I have to solve my particular problem of appropriate magnitude. Bing bong. All right. So let's talk about the big signs that you might be stuck in a grind. Okay. So the first thing is leverage, right? Leverage. So what's leverage? I've been talking about leverage a lot more lately because that's honestly one of the biggest reasons that people ultimately hire me is they realize that they will be on the hamster wheel of doom doing the same dumb things over and over and over and over again, never getting out from under the activities of their business. And so whenever I hear this, whenever I hear somebody's like, stuck on posting social media or sending emails or even getting their email list up or having a website presence or having some sort of a strategy to get in front of people. Like whenever I hear that these are the obstacles, I'm like, you have a leverage problem. Okay, so what's leverage? Leverage, think of a lever, right? And like a lever is like a bar, and then you have a fulcrum, so that's a point. And if you move the point on the bar, you can apply very little force, little weight, and you can get a lot of force coming out the other side. So that's how your car jack works, right? Is you put a little bit of force here, and a lot comes out the other side. So, for example, this very stream, this very live, I have a leveraged attitude towards it. I have a leveraged process. So what is that process? Well, I actually wrote this weeks ago. I wrote it weeks ago. I've got it like all written out. It's all right here. I wrote it weeks ago because I knew that brain tax of coming up with what to say on a Monday. Like, are you even kidding me? Who does that? What kind of psychopath does that? It was me. Actually, it was me. I was the psycho. But I realized I was like, wow, I can select topics ahead of time. So now I write a quarter at a time. So like every single quarter, I've got 16 lives that I'm going to do, and I know what they are in advance. Spoiler alert. It's a little like a television series. I've been rewatching The Big Bang Theory recently. There's arcs, right? There's arcs, there's a theme, there's things that we tend to talk about, right? So the leverage comes from planning in advance what it is I'm going to say. And then I used AI to help me with my notes, my show notes, right? Leverage. Another example with this very live is I trained my team to help me with the promotion of the live, right? Now, could we be bigger? Yeah, sure. Right? But first, I need to get my time back so that I can not have the activity of going live be a burden, not have telling everybody who already knows me about it being a burden. So now the next thing is to expand the community, right? So leverage. If you're trying to be everywhere all at once, doing everything for everyone perfectly right now, and you always feel behind, you have a leverage problem. Right? Shout out L in the chat if you're hearing me so loud and clear that it really is, and I know this is like so cliche, it really is working smarter on things that actually matter, doing what matters, and letting the rest go. That's literally what it is. And getting back to like, why do we end up in these ceilings? It's because we got used to a way of doing things that's comfortable to stay in a rhythm, right? It's very uncomfortable to go into new routines. I know. I hate it actually. I am a creature of habit, right? But so are you, and so is everyone, right? Like this is not a mental health issue. This is not like neurospicy, not neurospicy. Like everyone. The human brain is wired to repeat, right? And it will repeat until there's another routine that has a better reward, right? A better reward. So the second sign of you're in grind mode is because your effort keeps increasing, but your actual outputs stay the same or worse, right? So here's how you know you might be in that. Are you staying up later? That's like one of the biggest tells. Are you staying up later to finish one more thing? Are you getting up earlier to finish one more thing? Are you just trying to like squish your nighttime hours, right? So that you can extend your daytime hours in the hopes that that's going to be enough to outpace your effort needs, right? If you don't have a good bedtime, your exhaustion is being prioritized over your output. Spicy on a Monday. All right. Here's another really big tell. This is like the biggest one. And this is what I work on with my private clients an awful lot. They'd never say it out loud. And this is why coaching can be so super powerful, especially private coaching, because private coaching lets you say the thing. You know, when you're in a group, you're kind of like looking at your friends and you're like, can I say the thing? And I do a really good job in my group programs of making a safe container. But, you know, there's a reason why the private coaching still sells. And here's the third tell. You start feeling annoyed and resentful of the business that you once loved. If you're feeling on a regular basis, now it is unrealistic to say, I'm never resentful. I'm never, like that's not a realistic standard. But if you are 3 out of 5 days ending the day going like, this is a piece of shit business and I don't love it and I hate the people and I'm resentful and I'm cynical of the market and I'm cynical of the systems and I'm cynical of the world, and you just are one bitter ass critter. Okay. If you're a bitter critter, then that means you got sucked into the grind machine. Right. And the solution to that is I call this my stop, drop, and roll. You gotta stop, right? You did not start a business to activate your misery. And there's a very good chance if you started a coaching business, you could have done something else. You could have stayed in the corporate career path. You could have done, if you were in another industry, you could have kept going with that business, right? But you chose coaching, right? You chose to build an expert-based business. And when you start feeling really like annoyed and resentful, you start looking at your peers with disdain. It's like, why doesn't everybody else work hard? Why is everybody so lazy? Like all of that narrative, it's poison. It's absolutely poison, right? You will love your business more because it makes you more money if you absolutely hate what you had to do to get it. Right? You just won't. And I know this because I've coached so many people through this. It's like my favorite quote of all time on this subject is, we lose our way when we lose our why. We lose our way when we lose our why. If you don't know why it's so important to you to show up for this, then the inevitable struggle is going to be the thing that absolutely sabotages you. I really believe that one of the things that has kept me in business for longer than the vast majority of my peers who started at the same time that I did is simply because my why is way more compelling. Yeah. And more importantly, it's not about being compelling. Let me rephrase that because I want to be very, very specific. I am compelled by my why. I am compelled by my why. Right? I know how transformative a personal coaching conversation is because it has radically shifted my life for the better so many times. And I know that there are so many very good coaches who are very sucky marketers. They're just terrible at promoting themselves, right? Like they are so good in a private conversation, but they're scared of having their picture taken. They're scared of their words being taken out of context. They're scared of the judgment that they're going to get for showing up. And make no mistake at all, when you start, you will be judged. You will be, but here's what you may not know is that you will survive that, right? Because if your why is compelling to you, not to me, not to your friends, not to your family, not to your spouse, but if it's compelling to you, you will tolerate the discomfort and you will activate to smash that ceiling. Let's talk about activation for a hot second. Activation is not staying up all night one time. Activation is showing up every friggin' day for decades, right? It is like this nuclear thing, you know? And yeah, I mean, I do have more than one why, but I think it's really important to say like, okay, but in priority order, what is really important to me? Because especially as women, we got a lot of indoctrination and training. And I think this is true, increasingly true for men as well, is we get all this narrative that to be a perfect human, you have these perfect priorities. And one of my favorite movies of all time is actually The Stepford Wives. Have you guys seen that one with Glenn Close and Nicole Kidman? And it's just like this Pollyanna polished perfect thing where you're like perfect at everything all the time. And the truth is that you personally have a set of values, you have a set of beliefs, you have what I like to think of as the push comes to shove value system, right? When the push comes to the shove, you're going to choose one thing over another thing, right? So for some people, that's going to be their faith. Push comes to the shove, they're going to choose their faith. Some people, it's going to be their romantic relationships or their marriage, right? Push comes to the shove, that's what I choose. It's going to be their kids. Push comes to the shove, that's what I'm going to choose. Their career, push comes to the shove, that's what they're going to choose. Now, here's how I look at the why question. Thank you, Lynn, for asking this question because I think it's really, really, really important. For me, there's like a domino effect attached to my compelling why. So when I'm successful as a woman and an entrepreneur and a coach and an expert and a trainer, and when I'm successful in all of those things, it's going to demand of me the skill set that's also going to make me really good in a lot of other things, right? So downstream, I'm a way better friend after becoming an entrepreneur than I was as an employee, for an example. Because I wanted to do it through coaching, I am so much more, not just empathetic, but better at having high empathy demanding conversations than I was when I started. I'm a better mother. I'm way more patient and I'm way more focused on the things that really matter for our family. But again, it was so much of that for me came through because I chose my top priority of I want to be successful at this game we call entrepreneurship. And now you can see in my life where those competing priorities also kind of dimmed my light a bit on the entrepreneurial side, right? So, for example, I will never blame my kids for my lack of entrepreneurial success. So many people do it. It super pisses me off. I never want my kids to believe or feel, because it is not true, that I'm less successful because they exist. That is a crap thing to put on your kids. And so again, like getting back to the values and what drives and motivates, I also know that if I'm worried, my kids will be worried, right? If I'm worried about my income, my kids will be worried about income. They don't even know what it means. They don't even know what the consequences are really, but they feel the vibe, right? So for me, success is way more than just making the money. It's also maintaining the attitude and the relationships and the connections and the opportunities and the skill development and all of those different things to stay in front of who I am overall. Right? So what's that domino thing, that dominant domino thing that's your why, that's your compelling why, that's going to give you that permission to let go of the lesser versions of you? right? The lesser versions that maybe didn't push through when push was required, or didn't learn the skill when the skill was required, or didn't enroll help when help was required, or didn't make the investment when investment was required, right? Like that's a lesser version of you who didn't know better. You're here now. So what are you going to do now to activate, to get past the ceiling? This is exactly how I reset myself. I pause, I drop everything onto the page, I make order to it. I'm like, okay, here's the priority thing that if I work on this priority, I'm more likely to get what I want, both long and short term. That takes thought. That takes consideration. You cannot react your way into that decision and expect to have a really positive outcome. Keep in mind things like your social media feeds and your email and your to-do list and your mailbox and the asks of others. They're all going to pull you off your game. And so for you to take that pause, reflect, and move forward, that's really, really huge. Now, here's why your momentum is only going to return when you finally start letting some stuff go. If you keep forcing a broken process to produce something it has proven to you over and over again it is not going to frickin' do, then you're losing all your energy and heat and anger, right? So choose forward motion. So look at the system. It's a simple system. If you don't have my book, make sure you get my book, Coaching Leads Made Easy, the system that works while you do what matters. It talks to you about the MTFC framework. What is your method for meeting people? What is it? How are you meeting people? Every dang day. How are you meeting people? How are you talking to people? Every dang day, every dang week. How are you talking to people? How are you inviting people forward to fit with you? How are you doing that every dang day? What are you doing? And how are you delivering the most value possible to your coaching clients, right? Every dang day. When you fix a process that can actually work and work at the pace that you're looking for, that's when you're going to start really experiencing a lot of different outcomes. But if you keep doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting a different result, that is the definition of insanity. Clarity creates speed. Now, I was just talking to a family member about clarity because she said to me something that I'm hearing a lot of entrepreneurs say right now. And she said, I'm just not clear enough. I'm just not clear enough. Oh, the book, it's called Coaching Leads Made Easy, the system that works while you do what matters. And since you're in the chat, Brenda, I'll just make sure you have, I think if you go to let me just see, book, where's the book? I think if you go to book.thecoachesplaza.com, I think you can get it there. Let me just double check. No, I was wrong about that. I'm sorry. If you go to thecoachesplaza.com and you go to programs, then you'll see it, right? So services, programs, let me just grab this link because it's driving me a little crazy that I didn't have the right link. Here we go. Ask and ye shall receive. All right, here we go. Okay, ignore that first one. There it is. Oh, geez. I'm like struggling today. All right. So third time's a charm. And if you're looking for it, just DM me the word book and I'll make sure that you get the book. But it really just lays out for you the meeting people, the talking to people, fitting with people, coaching the people. And then think of AI as being like an accelerant that you can put on that process. Don't think of AI as rescuing your business, okay? Little PSA. All right, so clarity. What she said is like, I just wish I was more clear. And I said, I feel like you would be clear if you simply took action. If you just did the thing, you took a step towards the thing and it was broken, it was stupid, and it was incompetent and ugly and the wrong direction even, like actually opposite direction to what it turns out that you actually wanted. That's better than sitting there in clarity stew, right? Because you're not getting clear by thinking about it. You already know. You either know what you know or you don't know what you don't know. And the only way you're going to know what you don't know is you're going to do things you don't do. Damn, that was good. The only way you're going to know what you don't know is to do things you don't do. So good. I love these lives. Okay, last thing, the power of release. So I'm a big fan of journaling, big fan of meditation. Those two things, I'm telling you what, I've been in a lot of different programs, worked with a lot of different coaches, been a lot of different places. I've seen a lot of things. And the most successful people that I know, they all have some kind of a reflection and disconnection practice, right? They get out of the flow of reaction. They get into their own insights, their own mind. They make up their own mind. Okay. So for you to be able to make up your own mind, it's just, you really need to practice a meditation, a release, something that can actually help you to do that. It could be prayer. It could be, I like Brendon Burchard's release meditation. If you want to check that out on YouTube, that's a really good one. Or, one of the things that I really like is I do Growth Day. So Growth Day, there's an app for that. Man, I'm like sucking a little bit on the links and such today. I apologize. But check out the Growth Day app. It teaches you a little something on personal development every day. Let's see, referral. There's my referral codes. I'm just like grabbing my link. Don't mind me. There we go. Okay. I'll share this with you as well so you've got it. And I think it gives you a trial so you can check it out. But every day, like doing something that's like not focused on the grind, but rather just reflective, making progress and doing something little. My growth day process takes me 5-10 minutes, a lot of days. Sometimes it's longer. Like today, I think it's a 17-minute daily fire, which is a little on the long side, but I really appreciate it. And it helps me kind of recenter and reground before I get into reactivating and going. All right. Finally, I know that I can help. If you've loved this, you're going to love the first 5 clubs. So if you're not already in the club, shout out club and make sure that you get into the first 5 club, because tomorrow I'm going to be doing a live coaching session and you can come and join me in that live coaching session. You just got to be a member first, right? So the first 5 club is my membership community where I do coaching. It is less than a cup of coffee a day for cost. It is very, very reasonable. Actually, I would say it's about the price of taking your friend for lunch. So if once a month you took a friend for lunch, and you wouldn't even think about that, right? But my membership is about the same cost. So if you come and join me in the first 5 club, you'll learn my first 5 formula, which teaches you how to get your first or next 5 clients. And it's without becoming Instagram famous or TikTok famous or even using video at all. You don't have to use video at all for your next 5 clients. Now, if you're ready to start using video like I am, if you love this, if you love how I do things, then you should DM me the word expert, because that's my experts network program where I teach you how to build a community, how to build thought leadership, how to build your expert positioning. We're doing a refresh of the program towards the end of this year, and I'm really excited about it. So if you want to have like more of a tech presence with your brand, which will help you with getting your next 10 clients, your next 20, 50 clients, then you want to come join us in the Experts Network. But if you're just looking for your first or next 5 clients, definitely shout out club. You can DM me on my Instagram with the word, there we go. There's my link. You can DM me on Instagram with the word expert to find out more about the Experts Network. Or if you're just looking for your first or next 5 clients, you don't want all the fancy dancy, you just want the coaching through that, you just want the first 5 formula, you just want to keep it crazy simple, come join us in the club. Less than dinner with a friend. Like it's awesome. And we can't wait to see you there. We're going to be doing our coaching session tomorrow. And I don't want you to miss it, because then we're going to be taking a break for the Thanksgiving break and all of that kind of jazz before we come back in December. All right, my friends, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for joining us. And if you have any friends that you think would benefit from this group, these sessions, these live streams, we keep it all on replay inside of the Clients Over Chaos community, which is absolutely free. So you get this training every week completely free. You just have to be a member. All right. So go ahead and tell your friends, next number5clients.com, invite them to next week's live training, which is going to be, because like I said, I already wrote the dang thing. We're going to be talking about time. we're going to talk about how do you get your time back? Because the number one complaint that I hear from a lot of entrepreneurs, coaches, experts is like, I just ran out of time. I didn't have the time. So if you're sick and tired of that excuse, make sure you are here next week, 9 a.m. Put it on your calendar. That's like one of the tips. Definitely use your calendar. Put it on your calendar. Tell your friends. We'll get you some time back next week. And until then, we'll see you very soon. Bye.